London.
Shay here this afternoon with you until 6 p.m. Now, don't forget, you can ask your smart speaker to play BBC Radio London anytime. You can also listen back to anything you miss on BBC Sounds. It's, as I say, 6 minutes past 5, and joined live in the studio with our resident technology and social media expert, the brilliant James Erskine. He's brought with him the latest news in the world of technology. Of course, the world of tech is ever evolving, and it impacts our daily lives, every single aspect of it. One area, it must be said, James, that many of us cannot live without is a lot of dancing, sometimes cat videos, all on TikTok.
Yeah, completely.
It's taken over our lives, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. It's been the proliferation of TikTok has been incredible. I remember talking to you 3 or 4 years ago when it was called Musical.ly.
Yes.
When it had a different name. We knew it was Chinese owned. We didn't know much. We thought it was a place to be silly. And it is a place to be silly, but there's a lot more content that's gravitated towards it. There's BookTok, there's CleanTok, there's so many different manifestations of how TikTok is being used.
Right.
And that's a big problem because the current ban of TikTok, which is meant to happen on January the 19th, affects the United States. It does not affect over here officially. That's what we should point out.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a US ban. And it appeals to me on many levels because it's a human interest story, because like you say, everybody uses TikTok.
Yeah.
It's a big business story because businesses will miss out the opportunity to engage with the TikTok audience. And it's also a geopolitical story because the reason that it might be banned in the US is because the United States are worried that Chinese intelligence services can get the data of that many US citizens. So all 3 levels. Now, on the geopolitical story, I cannot understand how Donald Trump, looking us in the eye, can be so pro social media with X and Elon Musk, can be so pro free speech, but will then ban a way for Americans to have free speech by communicating, whether they be influencers, business owners or users of TikTok. I can't understand how that will happen. But so far, it's been to the High Court. And the High Court in America have broadly, they've not concluded yet, but the hearing was late last week, and the arguments were presented by TikTok's lawyers themselves, also lawyers representing business people, creators and users. And the High Court, the direction of travel looks like this ban could still happen.
So as you say, the proposed ban was enacted by Congress with bipartisan support in April. The law being disputed in front of the Supreme Court. The ban basically gave Chinese-owned ByteDance until 19th of January, today's 14th of January, to sell TikTok. Otherwise, it's going to be a nationwide ban set to come into force. 170 million US users.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It would be detrimental to many people.
Well, that was some of the arguments. The ByteDance lawyers were saying, because remember, the US government and the bipartisan support came for what they were calling a divestment of interests. And they wanted the US part of TikTok to be sold to a different business, not the whole business. And what TikTok have argued in court is that you can't just sell the US part of the business.
You'd have to sell everything.
Well, they've said that it would have to talk to an algorithm that is based in China or with the Chinese-owned business. So that's what they've argued. They've actually also argued for more time. The more interesting arguments, except for the technological frustrations, if you like, I thought came from the lawyers representing creators. So content creators, influencers, if you will, who make their living online using TikTok. And the other thing is the number of small businesses.
Yeah.
Look, TikTok Shop has been a big part of the TikTok experience.
Certainly has. I mean, the amount of times I've seen videos of people talking about loo rolls and eye masks and whatever else.
Completely, yeah, and it covers everything. And the TikTok Shop has been a big area of growth for TikTok and for a load of small businesses that wouldn't have had a shop window as widely circulated and distributed if it weren't for TikTok. So lots of people are making the argument that it's prohibiting free speech and it's stopping US businesses trading.
As it stands at the moment, the big story around this and the big concern, obviously, as you mentioned, is this possible TikTok ban in the US. But many UK users are concerned as to what happens in the US tends to follow suit here. Is that a possibility?
Well, it's interesting. What we are starting to see with TikTok creators is lots of them are already pointing their audience to other accounts on other platforms.
Okay.
There was an interesting one today where a social network called Redline, ironically Chinese owned as well, but has seen a huge growth in the States when people are looking to find other social networks. Lemonade as well, so lemon with an 8 on the end.
Yep.
Another social media network owned by TikTok or owned by ByteDance is also seeing quite a lot of growth. And lots of creators are saying follow us over there just in case. The ban won't turn things off immediately.
Okay.
Because people have already downloaded it to their phones. And in answer to your question on will the UK follow suit, I think it depends on the regulation. My bet would be no right now.
That does, of course, mean watch this space.
Yes, definitely.
Doesn't it, James? It's always a pleasure having you here on BBC Radio London. That point to say, as much as you are our social media expert, people can find you on X.
Yes.
And other platforms.
And on Blue Sky, yes.
And on Blue Sky, as James Erskine. As ever, thanks for joining me this afternoon,
Thanks
James.
so much.
I look forward to our next Ready Tech Go in a couple of weeks.